Okay. Oh, this is a rare thing for me. It's Brian. Welcome back. It's the Peerless Gamer. Working on getting towards campaign 2. If you saw the stream I did, I don't know, a couple days ago. There were some changes I made to the character. There were some diagrams and things that I did online, and I actually lost those, unfortunately. Microsoft Whiteboard apparently wasn't kind to me and saved my stuff. So thankfully, because I'm recording this, I actually had to go back. I had to go back into a previous stream, grab the overlay or grab the Microsoft Whiteboard that I had of my character, and pop that into a diagram or a markdown folder to show my character information. So we are we're getting there. We're getting there. I want to preface that by saying we are getting there. We are making sure that we're um, working through our problems that we've got to make characters. I had hoped that I would be starting by now, but it is not working out to be as easy as I thought it would be to homebrew a system. So I'm actually trying to get the preview docs up for the site. But if you're watching, welcome. If you're lurking, welcome too. That's fine. I'm just trying to, let me see. See where's, don't need Firefox. Don't need the browser just yet. I will remove that. So how has everybody been this week? Did anybody have any issues with the previous episode? Let me see. Is that popping up there? Yes. No, it's not. Um, mm, okay, I need the Fate Freeport one at least. There we go. There it is. Okay, there's that one. Okay, so there's that one. And then the other preview, which is the Fate Solo. There it is. Okay. Yeah, we'll just move those around a little bit. So we've got those. And there we go. So I had to do not so much a retcon, but more like a um, added some more information to my character. Um, both of the docs that I'm using, and I will now make that proper transition. Here we go. So if you see here, we've got aspects. We have our skills distribution, the character arc to help figure out why your character is, why they are the way they are, how they got to where they need to. I liked those. They were a little more robust than the Fate Solo version, which was like, you know, the Fate Solo felt like it was like, oh, you've already played Fate before. Now you're doing it by yourself. Add some things. So, um, they had different skill levels for and they're suggesting like using a skill tree. So if you're good at knot tying, being a sailor, or operating a ship or whatever, and whereas the Fate Freeport is a different implementation of things. What the other thing you'll find out is like for supplements, like like the Ether C or whatever, which I have weird I bought. Um, this one uses Fate Accelerated. There's no Fate Core, Fate Condensed version of this. So you have to take the splat part of it, the setting of the Ether C in this case, if you're playing like a Spelljammer or something, and shoehorn it into Fate Core, Fate Condensed. If you like Fate Accelerated, then yeah, this is good. But there's no options for Fate Core or Fate Condensed in here. Um, so yeah. Oh, one other thing. Yes. So I took everything that was in the whiteboard doc that I got lost. It got corrupted. It disappeared. It didn't save the progress. And thankfully I was able to pull all that up. Let me grab. Let's see. screen capture, VS Code. So I used VS Code, and that is not what I wanted. Window capture. Thankfully, oh, there it is, code. There it is. Okay. And it, of course, is massively huge, so I will shrink it down accordingly. And then I will copy to the play screen. There we go. Okay. I may end up blocking myself out here, but I'll just turn it on and turn it off as I like. All right, and transition. All right, so what you see here is my character that I have. I have a couple of other things too, including a campaign intro, because I was trying to do a write-up on the humans, the dwarves, the Warren folk that we talked about. But as I got through various parts of this, I was like, well, we have this massive ocean, right? And it's a fantasy world, and we're missing some things. You know, we're missing all of the species to this point have been terrestrial in nature. And I was like, seems like a lost opportunity to have some underwater species that is, you know, continent of Atlantis kind of stuff, you know? So I think I joked about that at the end of the last stream. I was like, I like turtles. And so I came up with the idea of well, I and my good friend Chat GPT, or not Chat GPT, but Copilot, came up with the idea of the turtles, who are aquatic. The idea is I was thinking of them like the Ninja Turtles, you know, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're fast, they're agile, they move around a lot, but as they get older, they get slower. You know, the D&D Turtles, I always I looked at pictures of them and they always felt like they were a little on the slow side to begin with. And slow being, I mean, their agility, you know, maybe they're a little, like this. I'm thinking as they're young and spry and they live a long time. Maybe they're like, you know, Donatello and Michelangelo and Raphael and the other one, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, Leonardo. Sorry, I should have done them in the right order of the song, but I just didn't. But I was thinking of, you know, the Atlantis. I was thinking like maybe they were Sahagin or something like that, or you know, maybe mermaids. But I was like, mermaids are overdone. So I was like, maybe they're an amphibious tortoise or a turtle or something like that. So the idea is, you know, they can fight. They're very effective at fighting, and the idea would be that, you know, as they get older, they start slowing down. Maybe they turn into the, you know, as they age, they start turning into the, you know, maybe they find a different job, or maybe they retire from adventuring, or you know, those kinds of things. So we ended up, we being my friend, have created the, where are they? The deep word. The yes. So I asked some questions about an oceanic empire with the ingenuity of an amphibious turtle race, and I was looking at the deep word pact, you know, suggesting an ancient oath that binds them together. And I wanted a hierarchy, right? You know, everybody has a you know, there are different forms of government. So you have elected officials. In fantasy lands, you usually have a king or a queen or a council or something like that. So the idea is that there's a prime matron. So I kind of bred the idea of the turtles and bees together. So and the queen alien, right, from the Aliens movie. So the matron turtle, the maximum turtle, has makes all of the eggs for all of the turtles that exist underwater on the planet of Akovian. And obviously she is the matron turtle. I would say she's very much akin to the same size as like a dragon turtle, if you want to, you know, use a specific type of critter. She would be massive, like behemoth kind of thing. And that got me thinking about some of the other stuff that I had thought about during our map where we have like a flotilla, or we have like a platform or something of, we had different areas of land where the Warren folk live, or where the Taurans live, which are the like the bovine type of people. Um, think Minotaur, but maybe not so dumb, right? And so, the flotilla, so maybe there's some work there that can be done. Obviously, we're not going to get to every culture or whatever, but it's nice to have options, right? And they're going to, maybe the turtles aren't as numerous on land as you would see, the Taurans or the Warren folk or what have you, but they do exist. Um, I would say they're the more technologically advanced. So I'm going to say that they're probably like our tinkers or our artificers. The gnomes are probably artificers too, but on a different level. The gnomes may do more along the lines of weapons or airships or something like that, whereas the turtles of the Deepward Pact are underwater. They use submarines, submersibles. They have uh, domes to invite land the above dwellers down, and they have that, they can create atmosphere. They have technologies just like the gnomes do, I would say. Um, the other thing I was thinking about was the social hierarchy. So they have a council of elders, maybe the matron turtle. She's like the queen, right? And then you have the parliament in England. She's maybe she's venerated, right? And so, but she doesn't get involved in the politics or the government. She's there to continue the turtle race, that kind of thing. But she's venerated, she's revered, and she does, when she has an opinion, it'll be like Matron Turtle says, we're all good. That's what happens. So if she's deciding the water will be green, the water's going to be green next week, because that's just what the Matron Turtle wants. So there'll be a council of elders. There's some elite warriors. There's engineers and scholars, and I'm thinking, there'll be. It's not a caste system, but it's like these are some of the what the people work with and do. So they have the Leviathan fleet as a collection of massive submarines that function as mobile cities. So that means necessarily you don't the abyssal plain in the Atlantic Ocean right now on Earth is deep, right? Deep. Um, and so watch Aquaman, and that's kind of where we're getting, right? You know what I mean? They're going to have submersibles, they're going to have attack craft, that kind of thing. Whereas, you have the underwater dwellers with their ships, you've got the surface dwellers with the ocean ships, and then you're going to have airships and stuff because the other thing is you're going to have what's called the drifting kin. So, there's going to be outcasts. There's going to be people that like don't want to be involved in turtle society, but they are still turtles. Maybe they don't fit in. There's going to be some folks like that who want to wander. Maybe it's suggested that they wander. And my thought was, everybody goes out at some point because they're so long lived, 200-300 years. So maybe there are turtles out there that exist, and they wander, and they learn things, and they learn about the upworld, the above world, and the dwellers. But then there's like I don't know, my thought was a biological imperative, kind of like how salmon spawn. There'll come a point where they'll be like, man, I need to get home. And then they'll be like, they need to get home, right? Which, to be fair, won't be too hard for them. They'll just jump in the water. But, there's always reasons why they might try to resist that, or there might be reasons they can't do that. Being, in an adventuring party, and they're, 500 meters underground, and all of a sudden, ooh, feeling the call of the ocean, that kind of thing. And then they would have to resist that. But there's some interesting things there. And then hibernation rituals. They have sunken temples. My thought was that they were Atlantis, right? They came from Atlantis, but then they created uh, the technology to be able to continue surviving. They're amphibious. They might use gene therapy or something, or potions of air breathing that just came into their genetic structure, what have you. Um, but yeah, I was just looking at a ton of stuff, asking questions of the bit there. So areas where they might have, um, exploring interactions with surface dwellers. They have their empire possessed a powerful artifact known as the Leviathan Core. So there were some various ideas that we got from Copilot on ways that we might be able to use them. So ancient pacts. We're looking at lost objects. Maybe they're the guardians of a portal to the realm of water, if you will, which is how we got the oceans on Ecovian to begin with. Um, uh, maybe they're good with sonar and sound, so maybe they hear things, or maybe there's a music or some kind of device that harmonize deep sea currents. I think that's what they were talking about with the Leviathan core. So there's a ton of options we could go with them in that. So um, so I mentioned airships because the other thing I was thinking is, well, why don't we have an avian group? The Kenku exist and you have the Aarakocra in D&D. So I was like, well, we've got a big open expansive area. Why wouldn't we have some kind of um, uh, avian race or flying race? So the idea of the Windborn came about. Sky dwellers. They have a societal hierarchy instead of like the turtles being like the people underwater, because they have, the turtles will have enemies too, right? So they'll have, um, maybe there's some updwellers that are doing things bad. Maybe they're mining underwater. So maybe some gnomes got a little overzealous and have figured out how to create underwater technology, which the turtles don't like. Or maybe they've, found deposits of insert MacGuffin metal here that we need to do insert, magic here or whatever. So ideally, we have something similar with the windborn in this case, which are um, pretty much birds, right? There's a leader who is enigmatic. We don't know exactly who that is. There's a ruling body, but we don't know who actually might be the prime bird. It could be a rock, it could be a phoenix, it could be a finch, it could be a goldfinch. We don't know exactly who that is yet, and we may never know. But there's, the funny thing is there's a similar kind of deal with Copilot every time they have the ruling class and they have protector class and they have historians and philosophers and spiritual leaders. Um, they have, and we'll have to figure out what motivates them, right? Is it, are they enemies with dragons? Are they friends with dragons? Do the dragons even fly in this world, or what have you? And of course, they have wanderers too. So there was a lot of this. There was quite a bit of similarity here. My thought was maybe the Windborn are a bit more loose in their organization than the Turtles are. I would imagine the Turtles being a bit more militaristic, if you will, a bit more like, you're going to do these things. But even then, with the Windborn, you're going to have, I'm going to go do what I want. I can go fly where I want. I also thought about using albatross as messengers, that kind of thing, because they fly a long ways. They don't have to land. They can glide everywhere. But I was just thinking of those things, and I'll flesh that out a little more. And I kind of want to, put a couple of my own ideas in there. Um, but they were talking about unique cultural aspects. Funeral rites involve a final flight, ascending, riding thermals until their strength fades, and then they, pass into the sky or what have you. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep it interesting, going beyond Freeport being the only city here in the area. So yeah. Um, yeah, some, got a couple things with the Deep Word Pact and the Windborn. My player character. Okay, so I did manage to recover all of Nathan Monkwin. He needs a cool nickname though. He does need a cool nickname. I'm thinking about a cool nickname because as a member of, an underground type of organization like the Silent Accord, maybe he has a handle. Like hackers have handles. People in my industry of information security, we like to create handles, cute handles, or something to strike fear into the hearts of people or whatever. Um, So if we go back to the document here, they tell you about naming your character, the phases of characters, score, stress, and consequences. So I went back and I kind of filled in some gaps in where Nathan came from and where how he got to where he is using the phases to kind of help with the aspects in this case, because there were some things that I felt like there were some holes missing, right? So one of the things that I did was first, second, and third phase, which is right here. Um, Nathan grew up. His mother was a human. His father was a dwarf. He is a dwarf because it's not like half dwarfs or whatever. They breed true to their one or the other. So he's got his brother's a human. He's a dwarf. Um, he was learned how to sail with his family and operating a boat. The idea was his family was caught in a storm and he learned how to handle adversity because his mother and father passed away when he was like 8 or 9 years old after being thrown overboard during a storm, a fierce storm. And, there could be, there's plenty of plot hooks there. It's like maybe it wasn't a storm. Maybe it was some mad gnome doing weather modification, or some human mage who cast a torrent spell or a maelstrom spell or something like that. We don't know if it was naturally occurring or if it was something else. So Nathan and his brother survives. I need to figure out who his brother is. His brother needs a name because at some point I expect to run into my brother. As a youth, I would say youth being anywhere between 12 to 15. Uh, he ran away because after his parents passed away from the storm, he went to live with his aunt, who we met or we learned about last time. She's fairly well off. She has a shipping company, Blackwater Mercantile and Holdings. He ran away, which may be why she has a damaged relationship with him. There may be some reasons why that happened. Um, he decided maybe he was rebelling or something, but he fell in with the Silent Accord, which is the Thieves Guild in Freeport. His aunt may not even live in Freeport, but he ran off. He's going to go see the world. He wants to go be a pirate and or work on a ship like his father did or his mother did. And so, but he got to Freeport and got in with the Silent Accord. Um, Thought that would help him out. He'd make a quick buck and then get on a ship and leave. Um, and became good at fencing goods and cargo. He would maybe get on a ship, work as a deckhand or crew for short trips, and then filch some stuff, you know, uh, and um, did pretty good with that. Maybe that's how he met back up with his brother, who had become you know, a, a, a customs agent or something by then. In his third phase, which is, say 15 to now, I'm assuming he's probably in his early 20s, right? Maybe something went wrong with the deal that when he was working for the Silent Accord, he got caught by the local officials, but his brother was able to help him out. He now owes Silent Accord something, whether it's the delivery of the package that he was supposed to create or the money that he was supposed to get from selling that thing. And he's not on the run, but it's like, I've got to do something. So maybe there's a time frame. Maybe we're coming in sitch, like it's maybe post the bad deal that occurred. He's out, but the Silent Accord is looking for him, right? They need to figure out what hell happened. Is it did he did he welch on the deal that they had? So that's something we'll need to figure out and generate. Species dwarf. His mother's a human. Father was a dwarf. Uh, my guess is that his mother and father had a shipping company or owned a boat, very similar. Um, um, both deceased. So one of the concepts, the original concept of what was that was what was that? It was like a cursed heir of the forgotten. That is not a good high concept. And so one of the things that I was working on, and I actually went to a couple websites on creating high concept aspects, was it's supposed to be um, like what is it? Han Solo was, smuggler and, um, smuggler and thief of the heart of gold or something like that. So ideally, it's supposed to be a high concept of what your character is in this case. So I said, cunning and resourceful fence, part-time sailor. Kind of sums up what he is. The trouble aspect is still ran afoul of Silent Accord, Thieves Guild. That's the current trouble in Freeport. Brother is one of the connections as a customs official, likes to take the occasional bribe. He's not against, little good-natured, improvement of his own condition. The aunt who he ran away from, fell in, and ran off. Uh, he could probably go back, but there's some fractured relationships. Maybe she asked him to do something or to get involved in the organization somehow, and he just wasn't feeling it at that time. Could also be maybe why he went south with the Silent Accord. Maybe it was something involving his aunt's holding company. Could be anything, and we'll figure that out. We'll work through that. And then a personal item. The other thing about aspects, I think it mentioned in the doc, was that you could have a kit or some kind of specific item or loot or something like that. So one of the things that I had was an unfinished map. And maybe that was one of the things that his parents left him, was an unfinished map, um, detailing maybe a treasure or something like that, which could go back to the ghost, the ghost fleet or what have you. My thought was that it's like it may be half drawn, it may be half finished, it may be where it's been torn in half. So now you need to fit the good old trope of you've got one half of the map, I've got the other half of the map. Why don't we just go and work together and get the treasure or something like that. May have to track down some of his father's old shipmates or his mother's old shipmates, and see if any of them survived, or where they might be. And maybe the Silent Accord found out about that. So we can wind the Silent Accord in a lot of different places on this bit. So I do not. Okay, I've got to turn off studio mode. Sorry, y'all. I have to turn off studio mode. That killed me. So sorry about that. So yeah, we have our personal item. We have our aunt, the brother who's the customs official, the trouble with the Silent Accord, uh, and of course, I think the idea is, if we make good with the Silent Accord, then we'll have a different trouble. I did take the goal off because that was something having to do with solo fate, which it mentions. Shit. Okay, so there was supposed to be like seven things here. Oh yeah, okay. So the third aspect is a goal. So very much like Iron Sworn, they want a goal, right? I think we can probably, if we have to absolutely have a goal, then we would maybe create it as a separate aspect or something like that. Like maybe we have it down here. The goal aspect is going to be, I have to do this. And that would be the thing that would be like, well, okay, I'm getting sidetracked with this side quest. Oh, okay, well, you also have to do this. And so it's like, should I, you know, which one should I work on? Well, this is more important because the Silent Accord is coming after me, but I can get 20,000 gold pieces if I go over here and do this thing. It's like, ooh, and then I can have a -2 if I want to roll for the 20,000 gold piece thing or stay on task. Um, or I can invoke that aspect and then, work through those. So my characteristics are still here. You can see the write up, and yeah, so there you go. I've got it in markdown mode. I need to work on some of the markup for this. So some of the stunts, one of the other things was I took my background and I took my aspects that I had built, and then I said, hey, give me some aspects that I can use potentially for this. And this was some of the ones that came up. Let's see, where's not the skills? Where are they at? Aspects, stunts. Okay, so stunts and skills. So They suggested, let me see, subdials. First, you can adjust the number of free stunts from 3 to 4 for a higher powered game, or 5 for an epic game. I figure I've got room if I need to put some more in, but I wanted some that I could kind of was all over the place in terms of like if I get into certain scenarios and I can use these stunts. So one of them was Grizzled Resilience. Once per session, you can ignore the consequences of an attack that would put me out of commission. That came from, I survived when I shouldn't have in the ocean. Um, Loyal to the last, I can create an advantage when protecting an ally or representing an unwavering loyalty. That could be, maybe loyalty to family or loyalty to the Silent Accord once I get square with them. Ghosts of the Silent Accord, even though I'm a little, persona non grata with this. Maybe I've got some friends there that think, well, you had a bum steer, you got taken advantage of there. And I can, maybe if I'm gathering more information or if I need help with that, I can get more information from the underworld. And then another one is when cornered by authorities or an enemy, I can spend a fate point to declare I had an escape plan already in place. So um, that's interesting. Obviously, I can't use that one all the time. Only when I have fate points, which invoking, certain aspects or certain things will give me those fate points back. But it's not something that is a finite resource, right? I can't use the one step ahead all the time. I would probably have to, cut that to a specific scenario or a certain stage in the game. Um, so yeah, those were pretty good. So those are the ones that I'd come up with for my character so far. Um, and let's make sure we don't have anybody. Okay. If you want to chat, feel free to ask questions. I'm not against that. Um, I'm just I'm trying to, I'm not learning a new system. I've read so much freaking Fate stuff and Fudge and other things like that, but I'm just, trying to build up the character in a way that makes sense for play. And so, let me see, what else did I say I was going to do in this stream here? Let me see. Yeah, so the little retcon thing was the legacy thing, and I could still come back to the Ghost Fleet thing, to talk about that. And you can actually go back and look at my diagram that I had on the whiteboard. I still have the the map and everything of it's actually the Gulf of Mexico, but it's flipped upside down. So the picture of the Earth is upside down. Freeport is actually in the location on Earth would be Port-au-Prince, Haiti, if you will. And so there's, obviously we're just making this like an Earth analog, but it's, everything's flipped and reversed kind of thing. So I think the last thing I need to do is, let me see, skills. Okay, so one of the things we need to do for skills, because this is also going to kind of affect how I come about doing things on the system here. So strength, I'm fairly strongish. My strength is 3, so one of the things that you'll be doing with strength is overcoming obstacles, bending bars, lifting gates. Where's my water? There it is. Bending bars, lifting gates, breaking ropes, physical intimidation, that kind of thing. I'm be better than average on that. Defend when you need to resist with brute force. So if I'm trying to grapple or holding a shield wall line, whatever that means. Maybe I'm climbing up. Maybe I'm climbing up. The rigging in a ship. That might be either a combination of strength or dexterity. Dexterity, using dex to overcome obstacles. That one would probably be what I would use if I was in the middle of middle of a storm and I need to get up into the crow's nest or something, or fix the rigging on a ship or the sails have been torn. I'd need dexterity to be able to, shinny up the rigging to get up there. Constitution, toughness, and endurance. That's my second best, third best characteristic, obviously, because of my resilience. I may not have lived the best life, but I seem to be able to handle it well enough to not have to, um, you know, uh, running long distance, fighting the effects of a night spent. Maybe I was carousing too much at the bar, so now I have to take con checks or something like that to help against that. Constitution is an attack skill. I want to find it a Constitution being an attack skill. I find that that seems like it just seems like there'd be a way to use Constitution to attack. Maybe it can't. Intelligence is my dump stat, which is unfortunate. Lead reasoning, logical ability, memory, academic knowledge. I was thinking of intelligence being 0 because maybe I didn't go to college or something, which maybe means I'm not very good at casting spells or memorization or something. So maybe I'm a little forgetful at times, which may come in handy or may not. If this is, I don't want this to be like Memento, but could be. Maybe I'm not the best planner. Maybe I'm not good at legalese, leveraging obscure information. I always figured wisdom was going to be more like common sense, but even at 0 on the value for intelligence, that just means I'm kind of average, right? I'm not a brilliant tactician. I'm not, if we're going to have a heist, I may not be the one needing to plan it. Maybe I need to have a sidekick who's actually being the planner for those kinds of things. Um, Wisdom, measurement of willpower, awareness, basic common sense. So, I grew up on the streets, so I've got common sense. I'm a little better than average on common sense, right? Dex, of course, being my best, obviously, right here, and then charisma. Um, Maybe I'm pretty. Maybe I'm pretty. Uh, maybe, Jesus Christ. No. Well, if you've played D&D at all, charisma is also another one where spell casting can be possible. You use charisma-based casters, so magic can still be something I can do. But maybe it's spirit-based, or maybe there's some other magic system in our world that is more in alignment with what I'm doing. And I do have some magic systems that will be based on those things, like maybe spirit magic, or maybe I'm not good at writing, so maybe I'm not a runesmith or something like that. Um, maybe I can summon, maybe I can summon a Pokemon in the form of a fish or something like that for an animal companion, or the tattoos that I will use to as a sailor, tattoos kind of go in the same way. So maybe I have an ornate tattoo that will turn into a parrot or some sort of animal that I can use to boost my abilities temporarily or something like that. And those will that'll figure in. But there's more than enough ways for us to uh, I would rather have a character that didn't necessarily need magic, but yeah, it's just one of those things, right? Sometimes it happens. Stress tracks, I get 2 boxes for physical and mental stress. I think I'm probably going to, oh yeah, and then they're expanded by scores of con and wisdom. So my con and wisdom scores, I have a 4 and a 1, so a 5. So if I have a 5, wow, I get 4 plus an extra mild consequence. So I'm doing pretty good on that in that respect. I can actually probably put my stress track, and then yeah, 5. There we go. And then I can put, oh, right. I need to, there we go. Control C, Control, oops, Control C, Control V, Control V. There we go. And then I'll figure that out and mark down. But ideally, what I'll do is I'll have a stress track that I can use to make that fit. Yeah, when you set up a table, you're supposed to have fields for everything here. So if I wanted to do that, it'd be like whiz on stuff. There we go. And then, yeah, well, I'll work on that. I made it up here. I don't know why it's not working up there, but just isn't. Really weird. Okay. Stress track. So I get 5 total. So whiz plus con to make that happen. Um, plus a mild consequence. And so that'll be like, you get an extra, um, a mild consequence might be like a sprained ankle, that kind of thing, before you start taking like really bad consequences. Plus, I have resilience as well, so I could ignore a consequence that might put me out of commission. So if I get a smack to the head that would crack my skull and cause me to, bleed out or something. Maybe it's like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or, um, maybe this will be too powerful. So I'll be like, well, something that should have been like a major consequence will be only a minor at that, or it's a glancing blow. So, it's just a stress track issue. Um, the thing is, these are not skills. That's the problem that I've got with Fate Preport. They treat strength, dex, intelligence, constitution, wisdom, charisma as skills, whereas you got other games in Fate that like, even in D&D, it's like you got investigate, you got lockpick, you got those are skills as well. The skill list here is actually quite restrictive, I think. And this is kind of an example of them shoehorning this into almost like Fate Accelerated, because in Fate Accelerated you have, what do they call that? You have careful, what is it? The approaches, they call them approaches. And let's see. Yeah, approaches. They have careful, clever, forceful, flashy, quick, and sneaky. So clever would be like wisdom, careful would be intelligence, forceful would be strength, flashy would be charisma, quick would be dexterous. Actually, quick and sneaky would probably be dexterous. So, um, and then they tell you to take 1 at good, plus 3, 2 at fair, 2 at average, and 1 at mediocre. So 3, 2, 2, 1, and 0. So this is kind of the same thing, except instead of approaches, you're getting characteristics. So, brute force, the only one that I don't think they put in here was con, right? So con would be the only one that doesn't make a lot of sense in that term. So careful, yeah. All right, so is there anything else we need here? Refresh and stunts. Okay, so my refresh begins at 3, so I need 3 refresh. Refresh. 3, okay. And those are the special traits that define how you use your skills, and you begin to play with up to 3 free stunts, right? Ideally, because I picked an extra stunt, I should only have 2 refresh, but they said you can have more depending on that. So I'm not gonna make a huge deal, because ideally you can go up in your refresh beyond 3. I think they just reset at the end of every session, so I'm going to be back at 3 when we start the next session, kind of thing. Um, and so I guess what I do need to do is map, these two various things, like resilience. Resilience in this case would be a con. Loyalty, loyal to the last would be a I think it'll probably be charisma. Ghost to the silent accord, tap into old contacts, or this would be int, maybe intelligence. And then one step ahead would be, maybe it would also be an int, because I did plan, even though I'm not very good at it, I did maybe plan ahead and go, oh, okay, I had somebody waiting, or I knew that they would double cross me, so I knew where the exit to the building was, and I was able to get out. Again, some of these are fairly, you know, you know, powerful. So maybe I wouldn't have this one again for another, day or two or something like that. Um, yeah, so they've got like menacing growl is strength, combat panache might be charisma. Um, where they say, well, you can substitute charisma for strength instead of, when using a precise melee weapon, right? So if you're using a rapier or you're using something that requires a little finesse, use your charisma instead of strength. So let's see, racial backgrounds. Didn't worry so much about those because those are different aspects. Like, every human, every dwarf has dark vision, right? I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan. Dwarven toughness. I guess I kind of did that with the grizzled resilience kind of thing. That kind of makes sense. And that was a con, so I got that one right. Uh, I don't have elves in this world, so I'm not worried about the elves. If we come up against anything in Fate Freeport that talks about elves, we'll just replace them with something else, which is how that lot works a lot. So I'm going to remove that bit until I can figure that out later. Time will be. Don't know. Okay. One thing I've never quite gotten used to on my keyboard, and you feel free to laugh, is you hit shift to hit the one above, right? So in this case, if I hit shift and 7, it should be the ampersand key. If I hit shift and plus, I get, or hit shift and equal, I get the plus sign. If I don't hit that, I get equal. But the equal is above, right? And it's just really weird. It still gets me sometimes. Oh yeah, plus a minor consequence. Sequence. There we go. All right. I don't have half elves either. I imagine that you're either going to get, like in my case, my mother was a human, my father was a dwarf, I'm a dwarf, right? And my brother is a human, which is weird, but um, that's just the way the world works in this world. Um, I know people love them some elves and half orcs and whatever's, but half goblins and whatever. Um, okay, so and there's more than it's a huge world, so there's more opportunities to have the plane touched. Or I actually was thinking about like a leonine or a feline type of species of people if we decide we want to go and find another lost continent, or if we go into what is North America in this case, maybe there's the mountain lions in the peninsula of Florida are actually a leonine type of species there. So there's no shortage of things. If we ever made it across what is the Atlantic Ocean or the Sea of Covian there, maybe the Sahel of Africa has some camel folk or something like that. So there's more races that could be discovered and found and what have you there. Um, I just don't want them all to turn into the same thing. Like, oh, everybody's in a feudal society, or everybody's in a tribe of elders or something like that. I just want to kind of mix it up a little bit without going too crazy. Um, because it seems like some of that stuff is kind of glossed over with regards in some cultures on in D&D. So um, or they don't use it, doesn't come up a lot. So, and I'm not saying they'll come up in whatever adventure I'm going to be creating. It's just it's good if somebody asks the question, or if I want to understand more, would you like to know more, would come up and say, well, they're a tribe of elders, or they have the matron turtle, if you will, or something like that. Spell casting, I don't have spells yet. Uh, yet it could very well be that I'm not going to be able to do anything until I either get a sidekick who can do magic, or by dint of the dream realm, I figure out what I'm going to do to get some magic, or get something to skill up my abilities. And again, that'll be an aspect potentially that will come up when we do that, or a stunt or something we can do. Um, uh, okay, so coming up on 50 minutes here. While your spellcasting aspect gives you access to magic stunts are the key to really powering up your spellcasting. Base spellcasting stunts like War Wizard and Seer give you access to spells from specific schools and uh, allow you a certain number of spells with those keywords. You may take more than one spell casting stunt if it fits the theme established by your spell casting aspect. Okay, so I need an aspect saying you have a spirit guardian or you have a sword with a spirit in it that you can pull magic from to do magic, or I have a compass that can do something cool. And then the stunts are you can cast fireball with your spear of fireball throwing or whatever, and it's like those are the stunts you can do with that. Not sure how you would, you're not going to get a ton of uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess you can buy off the stunts and maybe get rid of them. I can't imagine having like 8 stunts because then you don't have any refresh. So um let's see. As you take spellcasting stunts, make sure you write down on your sheet what schools you have access to, what spells you've mastered, and what those spells do. You don't need to restrict yourself to the list of spells and stunts provided. Both lists are meant to be extended by creative players and GMs. War Wizard, Manipulator, Seer, Trickster, Enchanter, Illusionist, Necromancer, Battle Priest, Blessed Healer, Shaman, Occultist. And some of these may be that I will just say, well, somebody who can write runes can enchant items because the runes of power are inside of something. So maybe the battle priest or somebody like that can create those, or the enchanter does that. And somebody who works with spirits is going to have shaman like abilities, that kind of thing. um, the one they don't have in here is maybe summoner, somebody who is a fan of summoning critters or having the ability to, have animal companions, like a ranger or something like that. They talk about magical forms like wild shape. Okay, they gave like 4 versions of that, like the falcon, the wolf, the bear, and the mouse. I mean, obviously you can have more, right? So, not sure why you'd want to wild shape into a camel or something like that, but you can do a fish, right? Um, yeah, I would think you'd want to have some kind of maybe spell casting into a fish or shark or uh, dolphin. Yeah, maybe orca. Orca. So they have they have summoning spells. Okay, so allows you to summon an ally, natural. Yeah, okay. So they do have summoning spells. So I don't know which college or which group that belongs to up here, but they do have the summoning spells. Um, Advantages, durable, skilled. Yeah, extraplanar creatures, anything more or less anything goes with extraplanars. These aren't going to be extraplanar. They would be like, well, like with if you've ever watched Pokemon, they're just walking around the land, and there's a Squirtle or there's a friggin' Pikachu or there's a Gyarados or whatever. There, ideally you would have something that you could start with, and then either trade up or trade out, or you use what you have to, get more powerful critters that exist. And maybe there's some critters that are smart and will talk and, grant different abilities. My thought was either trapping them in a crystal, like the Pokeballs, but a crystal, or some kind of tattoo that, when you capture it or you spend time with it to attune to it, which is kind of it'll understand the spiritual vibrations that are coming off of the critter itself. It will meld itself to your body and give you a cute tattoo or something like that. That was what I was thinking along those lines. I like the idea of advantages and disadvantages. So it's like if you shape change into a dolphin, you're good underwater, but you can't come up. You can't come up on land. Or if you're a hawk or an eagle or a bear, you can swim, but you can't go underwater for long periods of time. You might be durable. You might have the ability to smack somebody with a giant paw as a bear, but or catch a salmon in your mouth as it's climbing up a waterfall, but you can't swim for long periods, or a dive underwater, that kind of thing. Um, and of course, you could be savage, like um, you're holding it together. You're a human mind or a dwarf mind inside of a bear. Something might happen and instincts kick in. And the instincts of a bear, while you're not in control of your faculties, may not be good. Or maybe you can inhabit your animal companion. So you have maybe you have a bear companion. You can take over and do things with it, but then your body's just kind of sitting there. Maybe the bear's in your body. Um, that would be funny. Um, so they have different examples of costs of spells, um, types of minor spells, once per scene, once per session, once per scenario. Once per scenario, it'd be like a wish spell. You can have one wish, that kind of thing. Session spells would be, uh, maybe you're not casting fireballs, but meteor swarm kind of thing. Maybe meteor swarm, because sometimes it's used as a plot device, right? You're not using it uh, once per scene would be like fireballs. uh, and then cost spells, those would be like cantrips or something. So, ice bolt or something like that, that you can just cast and cast and cast and cast, and there's very little effort and very little cost. So I'm just thinking of how you might do, once per scene might be a fireball or something that, completely ends the scene, completely takes people out, but it also takes you out. Hmm. Um, but yeah, like once per scenario spells might be you've got access to a wish spell, and that's going to cause all kinds of hell uh, to the storyline and to what's going on with people. But yeah, they give you a bunch of spell versions up here. Maybe if instead of animal companions, you have spirits that you collect or imbue. Maybe they give you knowledge of how to fight differently or different attack styles or something. Um, or maybe you can get one that will teach you how to plan better. Maybe you can make a deal with a spirit that plans heists and stuff. So your intelligence will go up temporarily with your spirit guardian that will teach you how to do heists or something like that. Spheres force curses, curse of bound fortunes. Okay, curse of withering, the evil eye, ill fortune, and you can go crazy with these. I mean, um, there's no shortage of homebrew stuff out there for fate that you can use for um, things like divination or summoning or what have you. Enchantment. Okay, let's just see if there's anything else we're missing. Illusion, right? Right. Nature, lightning storm. So yeah, they say per session, right? Nature cost. So wind, wall of wind. It's summoning nature's ally. So that's per scene, right? Did they have any that was like per scenario? Let's see. Per scenario. Didn't. Vigor, resurrection. Yeah, per scenario. There you go. So bringing somebody back to life. You can only do it once a scenario, right? And um, you know, you as the character, but maybe um, if you had more people in your party, maybe you could do that if you had the same spells. But yeah, regeneration also the same. So if you lose a limb, it's gonna be kind of hard for you to walk around one-legged or one-armed. I mean, it is possible for you to continue to function in that way, but um, having your leg missing probably going to limit you quite a bit in the game, unless there's some adaptive technologies or something you can get. Like you can get a robotic leg from a gnome or something like that, or You know, have a chair, or maybe you get an animal companion big enough to carry you. You know, you know, have a large hawk that grabs you by the talons and, you know, carries you around or something. Squirrel, you know, that kind of. Yeah. Okay. So those are examples of per scenario kind of things. Per session, lightning storm. So yeah, lightning storm, meteor swarm, those kinds of issues. At nature's aspect, granting bull's strength or fox cunning, you can channel the essence of a creature into a person. So let's say I got a hawk as a familiar or something. I can channel their vision or their um, you know, ability to, I don't know, if I got a powerful enough connection, maybe I could channel the ability to create wings and fly, you know, that kind of thing. Um, and that would be, you know, something interesting as well. Okay, let's get through all this. Corruption, taint, corruption, and madness. Oh, hmm. Freeport is the focus of sinister cults serving preternatural forces, particularly the Brotherhood of the Yellow Sign. The Yellow Sign? Like the King in Yellow? Really? Huh. Interesting. The King in Yellow. Interesting. Okay. The patron of the unspeakable one. Okay. Some of this stuff won't make sense because I had kind of a different pantheon, but you know, maybe there's some things that have fallen through the gaps. So the words, the war of words and stuff that we talked about earlier. Um, maybe maybe these are different aspects of some of those characters that have words tied to them. In this case, like the King in Yellow, or the Brotherhood of the Yellow Sign. Corruption. I don't have a corruption stress track. I'm not sure I want to use that. Not sure I want to use that. This track is 4 boxes, 1 stress box. You don't get more corruption stress for having a high skill. You take a corruption hit, mark the stress off from your corruption track, just like you would for mental or physical hit. Yeah, what do you get when you get those? If you have to use up one of your consequence slots, corruption uses the same consequence slots as mental and physical stress. Pus-filled blue, or an aura of unease. It can take the form of mental scars, predilections towards more corrupting behavior, murderous urges, or power is everything. Okay, good. Tracking madness and corruption is purely optional. Doing so tends to lend a campaign a decidedly darker tone, introducing an element of horror that might not be present in a purely swashbuckling adventure story. Cool. Yes, we shall make that optional. I mean, I'm not against it, mind, but you know, just uh, before you decide these rules, make sure the whole group is on board and wants that type of game. I mean, I liked the Pirates of the Caribbean with the curses and stuff. I'm not against it. You know, I was thinking curses being like maybe you turn into a werewolf or something, or I could see being, you know, insanity, but insanity and those kinds of things veer a little too close to, you know, mental illness, which I don't want to really touch at all possible. So if we do corruption, it will have to be something like maybe physical kind of corruption, or curses or something like that, where it's like, um, you know, maybe undeath, that kind of thing. Maybe undeath is a curse. So I could almost guarantee you there's got to be dead spirits and shit that want revenge, that kind of thing. So maybe corruption after death would be like you're coming back as a revenant, or you're coming back as, you know, the Flying Dutchman of Freeport or something like that. Corrupting actions, minor infractions involve touching small ways, or maybe wild surges, for instance. Those are possible as well. Um, serious business uh, involves specific spells. Okay, you become corrupting. You hurl a fireball to a group of gnolls who are attacking you. That's not an infraction. If you hurl those same gnolls, fireball those same whole gnolls from hiding without knowing whether they're a threat, you might be an infraction. Okay, so this, it's almost like a morality clause, right? You know, if the gnolls are good and you fireball them, you're a murder hobo, and you're a bad person. and you're going to get corruption, right? So this is kind of rein in the murder hobo players, I think, in this case, where it's like, oh, I can just, go and kill innocent people, and there's no real downside to that. So um, in this case, killing innocent people without thinking first will get you some corruption. So I'm going to try not to do that myself. But if you're watching, live here, and you're like, hey, maybe you're a murder hobo. Geez, maybe there should be maybe I should make a shirt from that. Maybe I'm a murder hobo or something. Yeah, wholesale slaughter, summoning demons, otherwise bringing ruin upon the world. Highest available consequence slot with the appropriate consequence. Um, Insanity, suffering, insanity, horrific monsters. There could be some denizens of the deep. There could be all kinds of things that could come, and maybe there is a revenant coming after you, or maybe one of the word creators of vengeance or revenge is sends an avatar after you or something like that. Um, Weapons, black powder weapons. So they do have guns. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't have guns in Freeport. So gunsmiths, there's several examples of that in homebrew on how to create weapons in those. Um, we can do bows and crossbows, but um, you'll have we'll have black powder weapons. We know the secret of gunpowder, if you will. Improvised weapons, sidearms, long arms, cannons. Yeah, there'll be cannons on the ships, depending on the size of the ships. I think I'll probably have to watch Curse the um, Pirates of the Caribbean again, only because it's not a bad movie. Johnny Depp's pretty good, but the British. Oh, Master and Commander would be another one. Master and Commander, excellent movie. Not Hugh Jackman. What's his name? Um, Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany. Excellent movie. I actually read some of the books, a couple of books in the first Aubrey Maturin series. Very British, super British, in a good way. A good way. Um, but yeah, those are and Horatio Hornblower. Period pieces like that. It's just kind of give you what the proper navy would be like, or what shipboard life would be like with your grog and the underway stuff. Because I mean, we're not going to role play every 2 week cruise, but it's going to be like what would it have been like on a ship like that. So those would be good ways of explaining that. Pirates of the Caribbean, Master and Commander, Ratio Hornblower series, that kind of thing. Masterwork gear, armor. I can't imagine you're gonna have a lot of armor when you're on a ship. Maybe leather. My thought was, you're not gonna wear a lot of armor because you got to be mobile, right? But there's still opportunities for that. Um, yeah, light armor, little protection, doesn't restrict movement or weigh down too much. Can't imagine you're gonna be walking around in plate armor on a ship. Plate armor would make, they could tie a rope around you and you'd be an anchor, pretty much. Um, yes, best protection, weightiest and most restrictive. It's quintessential example of heavy armor. Light and heavy armor is an aspect. You can invoke it 3 times per session for free. GM can compel it in all the same situations, light and medium, but can also compel it whenever you have to dodge or quickly move or have to go unnoticed in a crowd. Uh, yeah, you're not going to move quietly in like plankety clanky armor. So, um, wealth, wealth, I think, is an aspect, right? You're not going to have 500 gold. You're going to have enough gold to get by. And I kind of like the way they do this. It's disposable single use aspect. So if you need a ship and you're fairly well off, you're going to be able to afford that. You might take a hit to your wealth in this case. Um, Magic items are going to cost as well. Consumable items. Captain Harlow's dagger. So there's an aspect to this. So if Fate is interesting that way. So locations will have aspects because you have to plus and minus those. Like if you're in a lava, like a mountain with lava, and the room you're fighting in has lava in it, lava is going to be the aspect. So you're fighting, you throw character across the room, or a character throws you across the room. Do we land in lava? Well, that's an aspect, right? That could be a hazard. That could be a thing that could be invoked, or maybe something happens where the lava spits up and sprays on you and causes things to come on fire. So, like Captain Harlow's dagger here, it's like my lucky dagger. It'll press my luck until it runs out. I'll push my luck until it runs out, and it's like it has uncanny luck upon its bearer, provided it gets what it wants. So Captain Harlow's dagger is a smart weapon, or a sentient weapon in this case. So as long as you do what it says, it's going to give you luck, right? You're gonna get luck from it, um, and get an advantage with Dex or Charisma, and succeed. You succeed with style, right? So you get a +3 or +4 or whatever. Um, Another one of its abilities, it doesn't point north. You lay the dagger on the ground and ask to point you to what you're seeking. So it becomes a compass in that case. Or the luck runs out. So it hungers for riches and glory. It will guide you toward them. It works the same as a compel. The GM will offer you a fate point to pursue a thing the dagger wants. So the dagger will take over your it'll direct you that way, and you can decide whether or not you want to follow what the dagger wants you to do, or not in this case. So everything has aspects. I'm still learning how to do those kinds of things, and I'll probably ask some questions in the Reddit for that. So um, cool. Well, I hope everybody's enjoyed themselves. I think we maybe have one or two more sessions, one more, I would say one more solid session of getting things ready. I think what I want to do next is kind of map out. I did have kind of a starting map on how our character is connected to various people, being our aunt and the brother and the silent accord. What I think we need to do is maybe do an adventure generation next episode. What is it we're going to do, right? Is it we pursue the aspects that we have, which are, where is my mouse? There it is. You know, do we just go with the silent accord and go with it? Because I think we could probably start if that was the case. Just need to, in the beginning, or it was a dark stormy night and then we get started. Or is there something else? And then the silent accord group is kind of in the background, I'm trying to, appease them somehow. So I think one of the things I need to do is figure out what I've done to the silent accord to get on their bad side. Is it deal gone wrong? What do I need to atone for? What do I need to do to make it better? Like I welched on a deal and now they need 50,000 gold pieces to, not, sever my body from my head, or head from my body. What is it they want, and why did it go south? Was I to blame? Those kinds of things. So I think we're going to do that, and maybe from that we'll get like something else will happen, and that's the kind of the idea where we're heading with this. So I hope everybody is enjoying this. Please feel free to leave me some feedback on the comments below. If you are, I am. Okay, there I am. Please feel free to leave comments down below. I will get those. I will read those. Please be kind. And yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Um, Hopefully next Wednesday or Saturday, if I can get it on, will be the last session before we get that started. And I'll work on some of this tonight as well, between learning Python and other stuff, because I'm very interested in seeing where we're going to take this. And if you have any ideas or thoughts, please, yes, let me know in chat, or on our Reddit, reddit.com/peerless gamer. You can, or reddit.com/r/peerless gamer. And yeah, just let me know what you're thinking of the the setting and the background and the setup. If there's anything, hey, why don't you do this? Or hey, this would be great. This pirate series is good, or this series about ships is great. What about Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, and some kind of thing with that, or whatever. Or maybe I've got an idea for how the avian people will help out with that. Just whatever. It's all good. Anyway, y'all take care, and we will see you soon. Okay, on the next Peerless Gamer. I'm Brian Brake. You you stay safe and have a great week. Okay.